Your family thinks they know you completely. They've watched you charge through life with that unmistakable Aries fire, seen you lead every group, fight every battle, and emerge victorious from challenges that would break lesser souls. They've labeled you as the fearless one, the impulsive warrior, the family member who never shows weakness or vulnerability. But what if everything they believe about you is nothing more than an elaborate performance you've perfected over the years? The truth about Aries individuals born between March 21st and April 19th contains layers of complexity so profound that even decades of intimate family relationships have failed to penetrate the mystery. Behind that bold exterior that your loved ones admire and sometimes fear lies an emotional universe rich with contradictions, hidden fears, secret longings, and protective mechanisms so sophisticated that even you might not fully understand them. Your mother probably thinks she raised a confident child who grew into an unstoppable adult. Your siblings likely see you as the one who always has everything figured out, the natural leader who never second-guesses decisions. Your partner might admire your strengths while occasionally wishing you would show more vulnerability, yet none of them realize that every single day you navigate an internal landscape that would astonish them with its depth and sensitivity. The Aries personality operates on multiple levels simultaneously, creating a fascinating dichotomy between public perception and private reality. While Mars, your ruling planet, provides you with genuine courage and leadership abilities, it also creates internal pressures that manifest in ways your family could never imagine. You've learned to channel intense emotions into action so seamlessly that observers miss the emotional complexity driving your behavior. Consider how your family reacts when you make rapid decisions or take bold action. They see confidence and decisiveness, but they cannot perceive the lightning-fast emotional and logical calculations happening beneath the surface. They witness your ability to take charge in crisis situations, but they remain oblivious to the internal battle between your desire to help and your fear of failure that makes every leadership moment both exhilarating and terrifying. Your family has constructed their understanding of you based on what you allow them to see, and you've become so skilled at managing their perceptions that even you sometimes forget where the performance ends and the authentic self begins. They've never seen you in those quiet moments when you question whether your boldness masks insecurity, when you wonder if your quick temper stems from passion or pain, or when you contemplate whether your independence protects you or isolates you from the deeper connections you secretly crave. The most remarkable aspect of the Aries personality lies not in your obvious strengths, but in how masterfully you've learned to disguise your vulnerabilities as assets. Your family interprets your need for control as natural leadership, never recognizing it might stem from deep-seated fears about chaos and uncertainty. They view your competitive nature as healthy ambition, missing entirely how it connects to profound concerns about being forgotten or deemed unimportant. Welcome to Secret of the Zodiac, where we venture beyond surface-level astrology to explore the hidden psychological landscapes that shape who you really are. Today, we're exposing 6 secrets about Aries that will revolutionize how you understand yourself and the Aries people in your life. These revelations go far deeper than typical personality descriptions because they address the fundamental emotional drives that create your most puzzling behaviors. If you're ready to discover why you do what you do, why certain situations trigger intense reactions, and why your family's perception of you barely scratches the surface of your true complexity, then subscribe to this channel right now and hit that like button. What we're about to reveal will challenge everything you thought you knew about the first sign of the zodiac, starting with 2 secrets that involve the most fundamental aspects of how you experience love and conflict. The first reason: you secretly crave emotional vulnerability more than any other sign, yet you've mastered hiding it behind your warrior mask. Your family has never witnessed you break down completely. They've never seen you curl up in a corner and admit that you feel overwhelmed, lost, or desperately in need of someone to simply hold you without trying to fix anything. Instead, they've watched you handle every crisis with that signature Aries determination, witnessed you bounce back from setbacks faster than seems humanly possible, and observed you offering strength to others when they needed it most. What they cannot fathom is that beneath this carefully constructed fortress of independence lives someone who craves emotional intimacy with an intensity that would leave them speechless. This craving for vulnerability represents one of the most profound contradictions within the Aries psyche. While Mars provides you with genuine courage for external battles, it creates an almost unbearable internal tension when it comes to emotional exposure. You possess an extraordinary capacity for deep feeling, yet you've learned to express these emotions through action rather than admission. Your family sees your helpful nature, your protective instincts, your willingness to fight for others, but they interpret these behaviors as natural strength rather than recognizing them as desperate attempts to create the emotional connections you cannot directly request. The vulnerability you crave goes far beyond simple emotional support. You long for someone to see through your competence to the uncertainty beneath, to recognize when your confidence wavers, to understand that your quick decisions sometimes mask deep confusion about life's complexities. You want someone who can read the fear in your eyes when you're taking on new challenges, who notices when your laughter sounds forced, who recognizes that your need to be first often stems from terror of being left behind or forgotten. Your family has become so accustomed to your role as the strong one that they've forgotten to check whether you need the same care you provide others. They call you when they need advice, lean on you during difficult times, and assume your shoulders can handle whatever weight they need to share. They never stop to consider that you might need someone to call, someone to lean on, someone who could carry your weight for a while. This dynamic becomes self-perpetuating because every time you successfully support someone else, you reinforce their belief that you don't need support yourself. The tragedy lies in how desperately you want to be seen and known, while simultaneously feeling terrified of what might happen if someone actually glimpsed your full emotional complexity. You fear that if your family truly understood how deeply you feel everything, how much their opinions affect you, how often you question yourself despite appearing confident, they might lose respect for your strength. You've convinced yourself that your value lies in your ability to handle anything, so admitting vulnerability feels like risking your entire identity within the family structure. This internal conflict creates exhausting emotional labor that your family never acknowledges because they cannot see it happening. You spend enormous energy maintaining your strong facade while your authentic self remains hidden, creating relationships that feel simultaneously intimate and distant. Your loved ones believe they know you well because you're so present and engaged with their lives, yet they remain completely unaware of your inner world because you've become expert at deflecting attention from your own emotional needs. The second reason, you deliberately start arguments not because you're aggressive, but because conflict is how you show you care. Your family dreads your confrontational moments. They've learned to recognize the warning signs when your energy shifts and you become ready to engage in heated discussion. They interpret these moments as personality flaws, evidence of your short temper, or signs that you enjoy drama and chaos. What they cannot comprehend is that your willingness to fight with someone represents the highest form of emotional investment you know how to express. For you, passionate engagement equals love, and indifference represents the true relationship killer. This misunderstood aspect of your personality creates some of your most painful family dynamics. When you challenge someone's decision, question their choices, or push back against their perspective, you're actually demonstrating that you care enough to invest your emotional energy in the outcome. You fight because you believe the person and the relationship are worth fighting for. Yet your family experiences these moments as attacks, criticism, or attempts to control, never recognizing them as clumsy expressions of love. The Aries approach to caring through conflict stems from your Mars-ruled nature, which processes emotions through action and direct engagement. While other family members might show care through gentle support or quiet presence, you demonstrate investment through passionate involvement. When you argue with your sister about her relationship choices, you're not trying to control her life. You're showing that her happiness matters so much to you that you're willing to risk her anger to prevent her from making mistakes. When you challenge your parents' decisions, you're not being disrespectful. You're proving that their well-being concerns you enough to endure their disappointment. This pattern becomes particularly painful because your family often withdraws from conflict while you move toward it. They interpret your approach as aggression and respond by creating distance, which feels like rejection to your Aries heart. You experience their withdrawal as evidence that they don't care enough to fight for the relationship, while they experience your intensity as overwhelming or hostile. This creates cycles where your attempts to show care push people away, leaving you feeling misunderstood and them feeling attacked. The depth of this misunderstanding becomes clear when you consider what happens when you stop fighting with someone. Your family might celebrate these moments as signs of maturity or improved behavior, never realizing that your silence actually indicates the beginning of emotional disconnection. When you no longer have the energy to argue with someone, it means you've given up on them in a fundamental way. You save your biggest arguments for the people who matter most, because those are the relationships worth the emotional investment. Your conflict style also reflects your fundamental honesty and directness. You cannot pretend everything is fine when you perceive problems or potential harm. Your family might prefer peaceful avoidance of difficult topics, but your Mars influence demands authentic engagement with reality, even when that reality feels uncomfortable. You start arguments because you believe addressing problems directly offers the best chance for resolution and growth, while avoiding issues allows them to fester and potentially destroy relationships from within. The irony reaches painful levels when your family asks why you can't just let things go or keep the peace. They cannot understand that for you, keeping the peace often means sacrificing authenticity and allowing problems to grow in darkness. Your willingness to endure the discomfort of conflict demonstrates your commitment to relationship health, even when others interpret this commitment as relationship sabotage. You fight because you love, yet your love through fighting often pushes away the very people you're trying to protect and connect with. Your family has never learned to decode your conflict language, so they miss entirely that your passionate disagreements contain declarations of care, investment, and hope for deeper connection. When you argue with someone, you're essentially saying that you believe in their capacity for growth, that you trust the relationship enough to weather temporary turbulence, and that you care too much to pretend everything is perfect when it clearly isn't. This creates lonely moments when you realize that your most intense expressions of love are consistently misinterpreted as expressions of hostility. Your family members might describe you as difficult or argumentative to others, never mentioning that you're also the one who fights hardest for family unity, who refuses to let issues destroy relationships, and who believes deeply enough in everyone's potential to challenge them toward growth. They see your fire, but miss your heart, leaving you feeling fundamentally misunderstood in the very relationships that matter most to you. The third reason, you pretend to be impulsive, but you actually overthink everything in lightning speed. Your family has constructed an entire narrative around your supposed impulsiveness. They've told stories for years about your snap decisions, your sudden changes of direction, your ability to commit to major choices without apparent deliberation. They shake their heads when you book spontaneous trips, change career paths seemingly overnight, or make relationship decisions that appear to come from nowhere. They've labeled you as the family member who acts first and thinks later, the one who leaps before looking, the person whose gut reactions drive every major life choice. Yet this perception represents one of the most profound misunderstandings of your true mental processes. The reality of how your Aries main operates would absolutely astound your family members, who have spent decades believing you make decisions without adequate consideration. What they perceive as impulsive spontaneity actually represents the culmination of incredibly sophisticated mental processing that happens at speeds so rapid they appear instantaneous to outside observers. Your brain functions like an advanced computer system, capable of analyzing multiple variables, weighing countless possibilities, and calculating potential outcomes in the time it takes others to simply register that a decision needs to be made. This cognitive speed comes from your Mars-ruled nature, which processes information through action-oriented analysis rather than passive contemplation. While your family members might need hours or days to work through the same mental calculations you complete in seconds, you've learned not to wait for their processing speeds to catch up to yours. You understand that opportunities often have expiration dates, that windows for action close quickly, and that overthinking in slow motion frequently leads to missed chances rather than better decisions. Your family has witnessed this pattern countless times without recognizing the mental sophistication behind it. When you announced your decision to change apartments after spending just one afternoon looking at places, they assumed you acted impulsively without considering the financial implications, neighborhood factors, or long-term consequences. They had no idea that during those few hours, you had mentally cataloged 17 different variables, from commute times to natural lighting, from neighborhood safety statistics to potential for property appreciation. By the time you announced your decision, you had already constructed detailed mental models of how each option would affect your daily life, your budget, your social connections, and your future goals. This rapid-fire analysis creates fascinating dynamics within your family relationships because your loved ones consistently underestimate your decision-making capacity while simultaneously relying on your ability to make quick choices during crisis situations. They doubt your judgment in calm moments, yet turn to you immediately when urgent decisions become necessary. They question your spontaneous choices until those choices prove successful, at which point they attribute your success to luck rather than skill. The frustration of living with this misunderstanding runs deeper than simple annoyance at being mischaracterized. When your family constantly warns you to think before you act, they're essentially telling you that they don't trust your mental capacity or believe in your ability to make good decisions. These warnings feel particularly insulting because you've actually thought more thoroughly than they realize, just faster than they can follow. You've learned not to defend your thought processes because explaining your rapid analysis would take longer than the original decision-making process. And besides, your family rarely believes you anyway. This speed differential creates communication challenges that extend far beyond simple misunderstandings. Your family often demands that you slow down and explain your reasoning, not realizing that this request fundamentally misunderstands how your mind operates. Your mental processing integrates logic, intuition, emotional intelligence, and practical considerations simultaneously rather than sequentially. Breaking down this integrated analysis into linear explanations feels like trying to describe a symphony by discussing each instrument separately. You lose the essential harmony that makes the whole process work. Your family interprets your reluctance to provide detailed explanations as evidence that you haven't actually thought things through, never recognizing that your hesitation stems from the difficulty of translating rapid, multi-dimensional thinking into slow, sequential verbal communication. You often end up choosing action over explanation because you understand that opportunities won't wait for your family to understand your decision-making process. This choice reinforces their belief in your impulsiveness while actually demonstrating the opposite, your ability to prioritize results over perception. The irony intensifies when your family's slower decision-making processes actually lead to worse outcomes than your rapid choices. They spend weeks analyzing decisions that you would handle in minutes, often becoming paralyzed by overthinking or missing opportunities entirely due to their deliberation speed. Yet when your quick decisions work out well, they attribute your success to beginner's luck or natural intuition, rather than recognizing the sophisticated analysis that generated those results. This misunderstanding becomes particularly painful during family discussions about major decisions. Your relatives might spend hours debating options that you've already mentally resolved, examining possibilities you've already eliminated, and worrying about consequences you've already addressed. You face constant pressure to participate in these extended deliberations, even though your mind has already moved several steps ahead. Pretending to need the extra processing time feels dishonest, but revealing that you've already reached conclusions feels arrogant or dismissive of their input. Your family has never learned to distinguish between your processing speed and your processing depth. They assume that faster automatically means more superficial, never considering that your rapid analysis might actually be more thorough than their extended deliberations. You examine more variables in less time because your mind efficiently eliminates irrelevant factors and focuses on essential elements, while their approach often gets bogged down in details that don't significantly affect outcomes. This cognitive efficiency extends beyond major life decisions to everyday choices that your family interprets as evidence of your spontaneous nature. When you instantly know which restaurant you want to try, which movie appeals to you, or which route to take through traffic, your family sees impulsive preferences rather than recognizing rapid environmental assessment and priority matching. You've already considered your current mood, dietary restrictions, time constraints, and desire for novelty before arriving at your choice. But this analysis happens so quickly that others miss it entirely. The most profound aspect of this misunderstanding involves your family's failure to recognize how emotionally draining it becomes to constantly have your intelligence and judgment questioned. Living with people who interpret your mental gifts as personality flaws creates ongoing stress that they never acknowledge because they cannot perceive it. You develop elaborate strategies for managing their expectations while still honoring your own decision-making process, creating additional mental labor that compounds the original misunderstanding. Your family would be shocked to discover that you actually overthink their problems more thoroughly than they do, often arriving at solutions they won't reach for days or weeks. You see patterns in their situations that escape their notice, identify potential consequences they haven't considered, and envision resolution strategies that their slower processing speeds haven't yet revealed. Yet you've learned to offer guidance carefully, because presenting solutions too quickly makes them feel rushed or unheard, even when those solutions prove accurate and helpful. The fourth reason: you're terrified of being ordinary or forgotten, driving your constant need to be first. Your family observes your competitive nature and ambitious pursuits, interpreting them as healthy self-confidence or natural leadership instincts. They've watched you volunteer for challenging projects, push yourself toward increasingly difficult goals, and refuse to accept mediocre results in any area of your life. They see your drive to excel as evidence of your strong character, your refusal to settle as proof of high standards, and your need to lead as confirmation of your natural abilities. What they cannot perceive is the existential terror that fuels every ambitious choice you make, a bone-deep fear of living an unremarkable life that leaves no meaningful trace on the world. This fear operates at such a fundamental level that even you sometimes struggle to recognize its influence on your daily decisions. It whispers beneath every major choice, every career move, every relationship decision, and every moment when you must choose between comfort and growth. The fear tells you that time is running out, that opportunities are disappearing, that if you don't act boldly and decisively right now, you might slip into the vast ocean of people who lived and died without anyone noticing or caring. Your family sees your urgency as ambition, never recognizing it as anxiety about mortality and legacy. This terror of ordinariness shapes your behavior in ways that your family consistently misinterprets. When you take risks that seem unnecessary to them, you're actually responding to internal pressure to prove that your existence matters. When you push yourself harder than seems reasonable, you're fighting against the possibility that you might reach the end of your life having contributed nothing significant to the world. Your family worries about your tendency to overextend yourself, but they don't understand that for you, overextension feels safer than the alternative of disappearing into comfortable mediocrity. Your need to be first stems directly from this fear, because being first means being remembered, being noticed, being acknowledged as someone who mattered. Your family sees your competitive nature during games, your drive to excel at work, your determination to lead social groups, but they interpret these behaviors as ego or natural confidence, rather than recognizing them as desperate attempts to secure your place in history, however small that place might be. Every first-place finish, every leadership role, every moment of recognition serves as temporary relief from the anxiety that you might be fundamentally forgettable. The depth of this fear becomes apparent when you consider how it influences your relationships with family members. You need them to see you as special, as different from everyone else, as someone whose presence in their lives creates irreplaceable value. Yet you cannot directly ask for this validation because admitting the fear would make you appear weak or needy, contradicting the very specialness you're trying to establish. Instead, you demonstrate your uniqueness through achievements, through bold choices, through being the family member who dares to do what others won't attempt. Your family has become accustomed to your dramatic life choices without recognizing them as responses to existential anxiety. When you change careers suddenly, move to new cities, or end relationships that seem perfectly functional, they see restlessness or indecision rather than understanding that you're fleeing the possibility of becoming trapped in ordinary circumstances that would confirm your worst fears about yourself. You need your life story to sound interesting when told at family gatherings, to contain chapters that distinguish you from people who simply went through the motions of existence. This fear creates exhausting internal pressure that your family never acknowledges because they cannot see it operating. Every day you wake up with the unconscious question of whether today will bring opportunities to prove your significance or evidence of your ordinariness. Every interaction carries the weight of needing to demonstrate that you're worth knowing, worth remembering, worth the emotional investment that relationships require. Your family experiences you as naturally confident, never realizing that your confidence requires constant reinforcement through external validation and personal achievement. The fifth reason, you secretly observe and remember every detail about people you love, despite acting like you don't pay attention. Your family has constructed an image of you as someone who lives so fully in the moment and focuses so intensely on forward motion that you barely notice the subtle details of daily life around you. They've watched you charge through family gatherings with characteristic Aries energy, seen you dominate conversations with your own stories and plans, observed you seemingly focused on your own dramatic life developments rather than the quieter struggles and triumphs of others. They assume your attention stays fixed on your own experiences because that's where your verbal focus typically lands during family interactions. Yet this perception represents one of the most profound misunderstandings of how your emotional intelligence actually operates. Behind your apparently self-focused exterior lies one of the most sophisticated observation systems imaginable, constantly cataloging details about everyone you care about with photographic precision. Your family would be absolutely astounded to discover the depth and accuracy of information you carry about their preferences, their patterns, their fears, their dreams, and their emotional rhythms. You notice everything, remember everything, and use this information to guide how you interact with each person. But you've learned to keep this intense observation hidden. Your Mars-ruled nature processes love through action and protection, which requires detailed intelligence about the people you're protecting. You cannot effectively help, support, or defend someone without understanding their vulnerabilities, their triggers, their sources of joy, and their patterns of behavior under stress. So you watch constantly, gathering data that allows you to anticipate their needs, recognize when they're struggling even if they haven't said anything, and provide exactly the right kind of support at exactly the right moment. This hidden observational intensity creates fascinating dynamics within your family relationships. Your relatives might complain that you never listen or that you're too focused on your own life to notice what's happening with them. Yet you consistently demonstrate knowledge about their situations that surprises and sometimes unsettles them. When your sister mentions feeling stressed about work, you immediately know which specific project is causing problems because you remember her casual comment from 3 weeks earlier. When your parent seems unusually tired, you recognize the pattern from previous times when their medication needed adjustment. Your family interprets these moments of unexpected insight as lucky guesses or coincidental awareness rather than recognizing them as evidence of your constant attention to their well-being. They cannot reconcile your apparent self-focus with your deep knowledge about their lives, so they tend to discount the accuracy of your observations rather than questioning their assumptions about your attention patterns. This creates situations where your family simultaneously criticizes you for not paying attention and feels uncomfortable with how much you actually know about their private experiences. The emotional labor involved in maintaining this hidden observation system exhausts you in ways your family never acknowledges. You carry detailed mental files about everyone you love, updating them constantly based on new information, cross-referencing patterns to predict future needs, and using this intelligence to guide your protective and supportive behaviors. Yet you must pretend this system doesn't exist, because revealing its scope would make your family uncomfortable with the intensity of your attention. Your observation skills extend far beyond simple behavioral patterns to include subtle emotional indicators that others miss entirely. You notice when someone's laugh sounds forced, when their smile doesn't quite reach their eyes, when their posture suggests they are carrying stress they haven't mentioned. You track changes in their speech patterns, their energy levels, their interaction styles, and their response to different topics of conversation. This information allows you to adjust your approach to each family member based on their current emotional state, but they never realize how much thought goes into these adjustments. The irony deepens when your family accuses you of being insensitive or self-centered during moments when you're actually demonstrating the fruits of your careful observation. When you bring your mother her favorite coffee without being asked, when you avoid mentioning certain topics around your brother because you know he's struggling with related issues, when you choose restaurants based on your partner's current dietary restrictions, your family experiences these behaviors as natural thoughtfulness rather than recognizing them as evidence of intensive intelligence gathering and analysis. Your hidden observation system also creates internal conflicts that your family never witnesses. You often know about problems brewing in their lives before they are ready to discuss them, leaving you torn between offering help and respecting their privacy. You see patterns in their behavior that predict future difficulties, but warning them too early makes you appear controlling or presumptuous. You notice when they're lying to themselves about situations that will eventually cause pain, but pointing this out before they're ready to hear it damages your relationships. The most profound aspect of this secret observation involves how it demonstrates the depth of your care for your family members. You don't maintain detailed mental files about casual acquaintances or distant relatives. This intensive attention gets reserved for people who matter deeply to you. The amount of energy you invest in understanding and tracking their emotional patterns represents one of your purest expressions of love, yet it's an expression they never recognize because you've learned to keep it hidden. Your family would be shocked to discover that you often understand their emotional needs better than they do, that you can predict their reactions to situations with remarkable accuracy, and that you've structured many of your own choices around supporting their well-being in ways they've never noticed. The careful attention you pay to their lives represents one of your most generous gifts, yet it's a gift they cannot appreciate, because acknowledging it would require them to fundamentally revise their understanding of how your mind and heart actually operate. The sixth reason: you use anger as a protective shield when you're actually feeling hurt or disappointed. Your family has developed elaborate strategies for managing your explosive moments. They've learned to recognize the warning signs when your energy shifts from normal intensity to volcanic potential, mastered the art of diffusing situations before they escalate beyond control, and created unspoken rules about which topics to avoid when you seem particularly volatile. They've witnessed countless outbursts over the years, from minor irritations that sparked disproportionate reactions to major betrayals that triggered emotional earthquakes throughout the entire household. What they've never understood is that your anger serves as emergency armor, automatically deploying whenever your surprisingly tender heart faces the possibility of experiencing more pain than it can safely absorb. This emotional alchemy happens so rapidly and automatically that even you sometimes fail to recognize when hurt has transformed itself into rage. Your Mars-ruled system treats emotional vulnerability as a battlefield emergency, immediately converting the dangerous softness of pain into the more manageable hardness of anger. When someone disappoints you deeply, betrays your trust, or wounds your feelings in ways that threaten to overwhelm your emotional capacity, your psyche performs instant damage control by translating that vulnerable hurt into fiery indignation that feels safer to experience and express. Your family interprets these explosive reactions as evidence of your hot temper, your lack of emotional control, or your tendency toward drama and conflict. They focus entirely on managing the fire without ever investigating the fuel that feeds it, missing entirely that your most intense anger episodes actually represent moments when you're feeling most wounded and defenseless. They've learned to handle your rage through various techniques, giving you space, waiting for the storm to pass, or sometimes fighting back with anger of their own. But they've never learned to address the underlying injuries that create these emotional eruptions. This fundamental misunderstanding creates some of your most painful family dynamics because your anger pushes people away precisely when you most need them to come closer. When your sister's casual criticism about your life choices triggers an explosive response, your family sees unreasonable sensitivity and poor emotional regulation rather than recognizing that her words hit tender spots you've been trying to protect. When your parents' disappointed expression launches you into defensive fury, they experience your reaction as an overblown attack rather than understanding that their disapproval feels like emotional abandonment to your vulnerable core. The tragedy intensifies because your family often responds to your anger by withdrawing emotionally or physically, which confirms your deepest fears about being alone and unsupported during difficult moments. You explode because you're hurt. They distance themselves because you exploded, and you end up feeling more hurt than before the cycle began. Your armor successfully protects you from acknowledging the full depths of your pain, but it also prevents others from offering the comfort and understanding that might actually heal the original wound. Your family has witnessed this pattern for years without recognizing the tender heart that generates such fierce protection. They see the warrior, but miss entirely the wounded child that the warrior guards so vigilantly. Your anger serves multiple protective functions simultaneously. It keeps others from getting close enough to inflict additional damage. It transforms passive victimhood into active resistance, and it maintains your sense of personal power during moments when emotional pain threatens to leave you feeling helpless and small. The sophistication of this defensive system becomes apparent when you consider how quickly and thoroughly it converts complex emotional experiences into simple rage. When someone you love makes a choice that demonstrates they don't understand or value what matters most to you, the resulting mixture of disappointment, sadness, fear, and loneliness gets instantly processed into anger about their stupidity or selfishness. When a family member fails to support you during a crisis, the crushing realization that you cannot count on them transforms immediately into fury about their unreliability or weakness. This emotional conversion happens below the level of conscious choice, which means your family often experiences your anger as irrational or disproportionate to whatever triggered it. They cannot see the iceberg of accumulated hurt beneath the visible tip of rage, so they focus on the explosion rather than understanding the pressure that created it. They might suggest anger management techniques or criticize your emotional volatility without ever recognizing that your anger actually represents sophisticated emotional management, just not the kind they understand or approve of. Your family has never learned to decode the information your anger contains about your emotional needs and vulnerabilities. When you explode about household responsibilities, you might actually be communicating that you feel unsupported and taken for granted. When you rage about family decisions made without consulting you, you could be expressing deep hurt about feeling excluded and unimportant. When you react with fury to criticism or suggestions for improvement, you might be protecting yourself from feelings of inadequacy or failure that feel too dangerous to acknowledge directly. The most profound aspect of this protective mechanism involves how it preserves your ability to function during emotionally overwhelming situations. Without the ability to convert hurt into anger, you might become paralyzed by pain during crisis moments when your family needs your strength and leadership. Your anger allows you to maintain forward momentum even when you're experiencing profound disappointment or betrayal, transforming emotional overwhelm into action-oriented energy that keeps you moving when stopping might mean falling apart completely. Yet this same protective system creates chronic loneliness because it prevents authentic emotional connection during your most vulnerable moments. Your family learns to navigate your anger but never learns to comfort your hurt because the hurt remains hidden behind the rage. They develop skills for avoiding your triggers and managing your explosions, but they never develop capacity for providing the deeper emotional support that might reduce your need for explosive protection in the first place. Your anger also serves as a communication system that your family has never learned to interpret correctly. When you explode about seemingly minor issues, you're often trying to communicate about major emotional needs that you cannot express directly. Your fury about dirty dishes might actually be about feeling disrespected and unappreciated. Your rage about schedule changes might be about your deep need for security and predictability. Your explosive reactions to broken promises might be about your terror of abandonment and your desperate need for reliability from people you love. The isolation deepens because explaining your emotional conversion process requires vulnerability that your protective system exists to prevent. Telling your family that your anger masks hurt feelings requires you to admit both that you have hurt feelings and that your anger isn't entirely justified by external circumstances. This level of emotional transparency feels impossibly dangerous when you're already feeling wounded, so you end up trapped in cycles where your protective mechanism prevents access to the very support that might make protection unnecessary. Your family has never realized that behind your fiercest anger lies your greatest capacity for love and loyalty. You don't explode about things that don't matter to you. Your anger gets reserved for situations and relationships where your emotional investment runs deep enough to generate real pain when things go wrong. The intensity of your protective reaction actually indicates the intensity of your care, but your family experiences it as evidence of your difficulty and instability, rather than recognizing it as proof of how much their actions and choices matter to your vulnerable heart. Living with this constant emotional translation creates exhausting internal labor that your family never acknowledges because they cannot see it happening. You must simultaneously experience your hurt, convert it to anger, express the anger appropriately enough to avoid completely destroying relationships, and then manage the aftermath when your protective explosion pushes away the very people whose support you needed in the first place. This complex emotional choreography happens automatically, but it consumes enormous energy and creates ongoing stress that compounds the original injury. Your family would be astounded to discover that your explosive moments often follow periods when you've been working exceptionally hard to manage difficult emotions privately, trying to avoid burdening them with your struggles or creating conflict through direct emotional expression. When your internal management system becomes overwhelmed, the explosion represents not the beginning of emotional dysregulation, but the final stage of emotional overload that you've been fighting to contain. Your anger serves as an emergency pressure release valve that prevents complete emotional breakdown, yet your family experiences these emergency releases as sudden, unpredictable attacks rather than understanding them as evidence of how hard you've been working to protect everyone from the full intensity of your emotional experience. Now that we've unveiled these 6 profound secrets, you can finally understand why your family relationships feel simultaneously close and distant, why you're often misunderstood even by people who've known you for decades, and why your most authentic expressions of love and care get consistently misinterpreted as something else entirely. The Aries personality operates on levels of complexity that most people never suspect, creating a rich inner world that remains largely invisible to outside observers. These revelations explain the fundamental contradictions that define your daily experience. You crave vulnerability more than any other sign, yet have perfected the art of appearing invincible. You demonstrate love through passionate conflict, while your family interprets your intensity as aggression. You process decisions with lightning-fast sophistication, while everyone assumes you act without thinking. You live with constant fear of being ordinary while appearing supremely confident. You observe and catalog every detail about people you love while seeming completely self-focused. You protect your tender heart with explosive anger that pushes away the very people whose comfort you desperately need. Understanding these patterns changes everything about how you can approach your relationships moving forward. When your family accuses you of being impulsive, you can recognize this as their inability to perceive your rapid processing rather than evidence of poor judgment. When they withdraw from your conflicts, you can understand that they're misreading your attempts at connection rather than rejecting you personally. When they seem oblivious to your emotional needs, you can see this as the natural result of your successful protective strategies rather than proof that they don't care. Your family would be absolutely stunned to learn that behind every behavior, they find challenging lives someone who feels everything more intensely than they can imagine. Someone whose every action stems from deep love and desperate desire for authentic connection. Someone whose apparent strength masks vulnerability so profound that even acknowledging it feels dangerous. You've spent years protecting them from the full intensity of your emotional experience. Yet this protection has created the very misunderstandings that leave you feeling isolated and misunderstood. The truth about Aries extends far beyond typical astrological descriptions because it addresses the fundamental emotional drives that create your most puzzling behaviors. Your Mars influence doesn't just make you competitive and energetic, it creates complex internal systems for processing love, fear, hope, and disappointment that operate completely differently from how other family members experience these same emotions. If this deep dive into the Aries psyche has opened your eyes to aspects of yourself you'd never consciously recognized, or if it's helped you understand an Aries in your life with new compassion and clarity, then you absolutely must subscribe to Secret of the Zodiac right now. We're just beginning to explore the hidden depths of each zodiac sign, and the insights coming in future videos will revolutionize how you understand yourself and everyone around you. Hit that subscribe button immediately because we release new content regularly that goes far deeper than surface-level astrology. Make sure to check out our other videos exploring the secret psychological patterns of every zodiac sign. You'll discover truths about yourself and your loved ones that will transform your relationships forever. But here's what I really need from you right now. Scroll down and leave a comment telling me which of these 6 secrets hit you most powerfully. Did the vulnerability paradox make you realize something new about yourself? Does the conflict as love pattern explain years of family misunderstandings? Has the rapid thinking secret helped you understand why people always underestimate your decision-making abilities? Share your story because your experience might be exactly what another viewer needs to feel less alone in their complexity. Like this video if these revelations changed how you see yourself or someone you love, and please consider supporting our work through the Super Thanks feature. Creating these in-depth psychological explorations requires significant research, writing, and production time. Your financial support through Super Thanks helps cover our production costs and allows us to bring you daily content that goes deeper than anything else available in the astrology space. Even small contributions make a huge difference in our ability to continue this important work of helping people understand themselves and their relationships more completely. Your support doesn't just help us create more content, it helps us reach more people who desperately need these insights about their own psychological patterns and relationship dynamics.